so happy? Okay, so we had a few technical difficulties. Apparently the internet cable was out, so we had to actually move where I do the webcast up into my healing center, into this little corner area. And we had to plug completely in, I think. Are you in the laptop though? You can see what's going on?
Well, from your house.
Oh, okay. Can you use this? Or no? To see questions?
I could try.
We're trying to figure it out, so just hang tight, you guys.
What if it's in from my phone?
Well, you might be able to get them on there and sign in, right?
I have to, you have to be able to connect to ABC.
Okay, well, I'll let you figure that out.
Okay,
I'll let her figure that out, and we'll just see what happens. Because we do need a connection so I can ask questions. Okay, so can y'all hear me? I sure hope so. If you can you make like a comment on there or something so we know that we're actually up? I had live stream up in case, if you double click and go back to live stream. Double click the button. It's just like your phone.
Okay, you talk. I'll find it.
Okay, so anyway, I'm hoping that you guys can hear me and see me. Anyway, so redirecting your thoughts, isn't that appropriate? So I think it's the full moon tonight. Funny thing. Which shifts energy around and makes things crazy at times. But here we are, and it all worked out fine. So please, if one of you's on there, because we're very limited to what we have available right now, if you will go into the Webcast group and let people know that we're up, and maybe if one of you could post a note on my fan page that we're up now, that would be great. Thank you very much. So redirecting your thoughts and how to be able to flip the switch, really, be able to flip it from a negative to a positive, and how do you do that? People tend to really struggle with the thoughts in their head and how they feel like they almost get obsessed, really, with negative thoughts, stinking thinking, I call it. And it can really feel like you don't have a choice. You know, it can feel like, no, I don't choose to think these thoughts. These thoughts just come to me, and I have no control over them. And I guess what I would start out with is you do. You have a choice. You have a choice to stay in those thoughts and stay with that negative thought, or you have a choice to move it, flip it. But you first have to be aware of the thought. You first have to have the awareness of what's even going on in your head, where your time is being spent, where your energy is being spent, how much is going on here that we don't pay attention to is kind of scary, actually, if you think about it, because there's so much energy that's happening and thoughts that you're thinking that you may not even have any awareness around. And when you don't have awareness around it, then you can't do anything to flip it. But if you can start to tune into it and start having awareness around the thoughts that you are thinking and feeling, then you can start to make some changes. And that's what we're wanting to do, is redirect it. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have the negative thoughts. I'm not even trying to get you to not have them. I'm just trying to get you to have the awareness that you're having them, and then to redirect them, flip them, move them in another direction. That is the goal. So we could start with this little experience right now. We could say, okay, well, so everybody's frustrated and we lost 3/4 of our people, and so that could be the negative thought. And then you can redirect that and you can flip it and you can say, you know what, we made it on, and so that's good enough. And or, you know what, everything happens in divine time, and for whatever reason it didn't work. Maybe we need to pay more attention to our cable connection earlier. Or we could say, well, we had extra time to figure out other ways to do it in case it ever happens again. So you can find a way to just move the energy around it so it doesn't get stuck and then take over, you know, and ruin your whole evening, or just cause you to be frustrated the whole time. That there's no value in just being irritated and frustrated and pissed off about something. So it really is to your benefit, and for sure to the people around you's benefit, to find some kind of gift or some kind of value and or some other way to look at it so that you can flip it into a positive thought. So the first step is awareness. So how do you become aware of the thoughts you're thinking? Well, most people don't like my answer, but I'll tell it to you anyway. And that is, you have to be so critically focused, hyper focused on every thought that's going on in your head. Like you have to be very, 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 very present, very mindful, and pay very close attention to what's happening in here. So if you don't notice what's happening in there, then 2 hours later you're like, why do I feel like shit? And you wonder why you feel like shit, and you've been just thinking about, obsessing about, your weight, let's say, for 2 hours, and how you're not worth anything because you're not the number you want on the scale, or the size that you want to be, or maybe it could be that you've been obsessing about this particular relationship and how they're not showing up for you in the way that you want them to, and then 5 hours later, all of a sudden you wonder why you feel sick to your stomach, or you're in the bathroom, or you're angry or whatever. Well, you have to pay attention to every thought. So the way this worked for me, when I was a teenager, I was very, very critical, from I don't know, 10 or so, up until even my early 20s. And I was aware, finally around 20 years old, 19, 20, how negative I was, and how I always expected the worst, and how I always felt like I didn't deserve anything good, and how the negative things were the things that were normal and going to happen, and the positives were things that happened to other people, that happened to lucky people, that happened to good people. And although I didn't necessarily consider myself bad, like I wouldn't say I was a bad person, I certainly didn't feel like I was very good based on my choices and things like that. So I had to be hyper aware of all of the thoughts that were going on in my head. So when I very first started doing that, I would just pay attention, and I could do it for about 5 minutes, and then I would just lose myself in wherever my thoughts were. And when I caught myself with a negative thought, I would just say the exact opposite of it. So if my negative thought was, oh my gosh, you're so fat, because I would have that one a lot, then I would just flip it around in a way that felt somewhat real to me, like you're moving in a healthier direction, or you're not your weight, or you're getting thinner and thinner every day, or so I would just find a way to flip it. And again, I could only do it maybe with 10 things, or maybe for 5 minutes, and then some thought would take me over, and then I'd be in that, and it would always feel out of control. I didn't feel like I had any control in my head. And I remember hearing somebody say once, you're the only person in your head. And I was like, nope, that's not true. I got all kinds of people in my head. I got my second grade teacher in my head. I got my parents in my head. I got the guy that I wanted to go out with that, called me fat and stupid in my head. I got all kinds of people in my head. But I thought about that, and it always stayed with me. You're the only one in your head. And I think what that meant was you have the choice and the control. You have the right to allow or not allow people in your head. And it's up to you. It's your choice. So for me, it was my choice. So I became hyper aware of my thoughts until I got worn out. And then I would get in so much pain that I'd become hyper aware of my thoughts again. This was years of practice, by the way. This didn't happen overnight. It was years of practice for me. But I got to a place where I could recognize my negative thoughts without having to be so hyper aware. So in the beginning, it's really, really, really challenging. So I get it. I understand. I've been there. I know it. But for me, I had to do it because the life I was living and the way I was showing up for myself and what I was creating with the thoughts in my mind was manifesting in my body, and in my external life as well. And it wasn't good. And so I had to do something different. And so that became my practice, was flipping it. And that's what I called it, flipping it. And so if you know what, he's such a jerk. Everybody's struggling somehow. is maybe the way that I would change it. If I would look at somebody, because I was very judgmental of myself, which meant I was judgmental of other people as well. And so I'd say, oh my God, what do they have on? I would say to myself, it takes all kinds to make this world go round. And so I would find a way to flip it into something. It doesn't even matter if it feels true or not. Although if you can find something for it to feel more true, I think that is a little bit easier. It's kind of like we ease into that shift of positive thinking. But if you can't, just do the exact opposite of it. And that's at least a start. And so what I found is helpful is to make a list of your negatives. And gosh, some people's lists are long. But what are the things that you find that you always get stuck on? What's the thoughts that are in your head that you always get stuck on? Is it about your weight? Is it about your finances? Is it about your relationship? Is it about the way your kids behave? Is it about a particular friend? Is it about the things that need to be done in the house? Is it about all of the chores that you have to do? Is it about the time that you don't have? Whatever it is. And then make a list of what the negatives are. The things that are always going on in your head that you think over and over and over again and feel like they're out of control. Once you have your list of negatives, then you create a separate list of positives. And the positives are the opposite of what those negatives are. And so if it's I never have any money, then you could have the opposite of that be financial abundance is mine, or prosperity is my birthright, or money is coming to me in unusual and unexpected ways. And so you would find something that would be the opposite of that. And you go through your whole list. Some people have 20 pages of negatives. You might maybe just start with one area of your life and work on that, or you can do the whole thing. That's up to you. But sometimes people get a little bit overwhelmed. So once you have your negatives, then you flip those to what are your positives. And the positives are where we want to put the attention. So we want to start putting the attention in the positives proactively. So not when I have the negative, I change it to a positive, although we have to do that too. But also affirming my positives over and over and over again. I used to, at the time my son was little, he was like 6 months, a year old, 2, and we'd go for walks in the stroller. And I would have a list, handwritten list of my positives, my positive affirmations, and I would just read through them over and over and over again as I would walk. When I was in my mid-20s, and I would go to like a place where I had to be in line or whatever, I would stand in line for 10 or 15 minutes for whatever I needed, and I would just do my list of affirmations over and over again. When I would go to the tanning bed, when I was getting ready for a trip or something, I would lay in the bed and I would do my affirmations over and over and over again. When I finally, after computers became, we had all computers in our house, I made my own little car rings or keychains almost, and I had all of my positives that I really needed to focus on. Now those changed throughout my life, but I created this. It was on a key ring, and it just had all of my positives on both sides. So I'd flip through it. As I was walking, I'd just read it and flip to the next, flip to the next. There was like 50 of them. And then on the other side, there was some too. And it was just on an old key ring. And I would just flip through those. That kept me focused. You got to do things like that. I created a CD, positive affirmation CD, because that's what helped me. And a prosperity affirmation CD, because that helped me. It started to replace those negatives with the positives, and I started being able to redirect my energy. I started to be able to redirect my thoughts consciously, intentionally, and to a point where now, where I am today, is as soon as I have the thought, if I even have it, because I don't have, no, I'm not saying I don't have negative thoughts, for sure I do, but I don't have nearly as many as I did. But when I do have them, it's kind of like when you say something and as it comes out of your mouth, you're like, oh my God, I just said part of that. And sometimes you can stop yourself. Literally, as soon as that thought starts to enter, I can flip it in the process of it being complete even. Because I've had, 20 plus years of practice. So creating your positives list and burning your negatives list is kind of the final release of the negatives. And I find that that really, really helps. What I want to do is, are we on? Can you connect or no?
I'm using my phone.
So you can do questions? Okay. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to have those of you that would like to share or have some questions or comments about areas that you get stuck where you're like, I just can't redirect this, or I don't know how to redirect this, or what's a good way to redirect this. I'd like to open it up. So for those of you that are watching live right now, look in the little, you can go ahead and write in the comments section, what is the area that you're struggling with, and maybe I can help you. Or what is the thought that actually gets stuck so much in your brain, and find some ways to redirect and move that energy. This list is great because the list really helps you identify those thoughts. Now, it's uncomfortable because you got to spend some time sitting in your shit and going, okay, this is what I'm thinking all the time. But if you can do that, and will take the time to do it, you can move to a place where there's freedom and there's possibilities. Then we can go into finding joy and happiness and peace and all of that. Do you have some questions? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and take some questions and go ahead and continue to do them. And Chris, we're figuring out our technology here because it's different than what we normally use. Okay, Chris.
My weight. Imagine that I'm so uncomfortable physically, it's hard to redirect.
Okay, so if I'm so uncomfortable physically and my struggle is with my weight, then I need to find something to redirect that. So I'm looking for an actual thought. So if your thought is, I'm so uncomfortable physically, then to redirect it would be, I can become more and more comfortable in my physical body. Or I am becoming more and more comfortable in my physical body. Or I'm more and more comfortable in my physical body. So that would be a direct redirect for you. But if you were just saying, like weight in general, you can say, every minute of every day, I get a new opportunity to support my body. Every minute of every day, I have the opportunity to love my body. I am grateful to my body because it holds, it houses my spirit, and I am so blessed to have the connection with my spirit. I mean, any of those could be. A lot of times with body, the way to redirect it is to change it from to change it from the focus of your body, like in the way that it looks. So many people be like, oh, I'm so overweight, or my thighs are too big, or my belly hangs out, or whatever it is. And instead, we want to focus on the functionality. So it's like taking away the physicality, how it looks, and focusing on the functionality of it. So when I have a negative thought, like if I look at my cellulite, let's say, and then my positive thought might be, I'm so grateful for my hips because they've allowed me to birth my children. Or I'm so grateful for my toes because they help me to keep balance in my life. Or I'm so grateful for my knees because they allow me to be flexible and bend to be able to play with my children or my grandchildren. So if we turn it into appreciation and gratitude for the functionality of the body, it starts to redirect that energy, and you're in a place of gratitude. These bodies that we have drug around have gone through hell and back for people who are very negative with their thoughts on their bodies. My body included. My body, I was so horribly abusive, really, to my body. My mind was so abusive to my body that it's a wonder that my body has chosen to support me in the way that it has. Gratefully, at least over the last 12 to 15 years, excuse me, I've been a loving team member to my body. But in the past, I was an absolute enemy. My mind was an absolute enemy for my body. Yeah, thank you, Chris. I do need that. So that's my answer for the body.
Okay. Next one is, How can I flip a thought at work when I'm feeling overwhelmed with work and deadlines?
Well, what I would say is everything's in divine time. And when you have deadlines at work or at home even, so the thought might be, I don't have enough time. And so then I would flip it and say, there's plenty of time for everything. That may not feel true, but the bottom line, if we really, I'm just going to go extreme here, is if we really expand this, it's likely that you have 40 years left in your life, let's say. Maybe 20, maybe 30, I don't know. But let's just pretend you have 40 years left. That's a true statement. There's plenty of time. There's plenty of time to get this done. Now, there might not be what you feel like is plenty of time today, but don't we always get whatever we need to get done? And if we don't get it done, then it just didn't really need to be done. Or if it didn't get done and a consequence happened because of it, then that was the way it was meant to be. Meaning, I would flip it around that there's always plenty of time. And then I would say divine timing. And then I might say everything happens for a reason. And so if everything happens for a reason, I'm not worried about it. So I have a time issue myself. So I get this one with time. So what I remind myself about is I'm not going anywhere. I have plenty of time for everything that I need to have time for. That doesn't mean that I always agree or even feel that way. So when I get that stuck in my head, I turn it around. There's plenty of time for everything, Sonny. You got lots of years left. You don't have to do it all this minute. And I have to remind myself of that at times. So that may be a good flip it for you.
Okay. Oops. Hold on a sec. I always feel like I'm not good enough at work and that I deserve any promotions or raises that the others get.
So, and if you don't feel like you deserve it, then you won't have it. So, of course, we want to flip that one and reframe that too. So, it's important for what is your language? What do you say to yourself in your head? Literally the exact words you say, and then reframe those, redirect those in another place. So if it's, I'm not good enough to get a promotion, but everybody else does, then say, I have the qualifications to get a promotion. I have the ability to get a promotion. I have the opportunity to receive promotions. I am open to receiving promotions. I deserve promotions. So do you see how maybe you start where it might feel a little bit in the middle between a positive and a negative, and then I can start to get to where I can get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger in my where I deserve promotions. I can say that. Well, you might not feel like you can say that in the beginning, but that's the process that we might go through to start to redirect us. Then I would start feeling like I deserve promotions, and I would start affirming over and over again that I deserve promotions, but bring the feeling in also, because when I bring the feeling in, I'll actually attract it to me, and I'll attract those promotions to me. But as long as you're saying I can't have it, or I don't have it, or it's not there, or everybody else gets it and I don't, you won't ever have it. That's just bottom basic law of attraction. Okay.
How do I send the most positive vibes to my daughter in grad school to succeed to be a doctor?
Just send her love. So don't get into the fear of, what she's going to do or how she's going to make it, or if she's going to do good on her test, or if she's studying like she needs to, or if she's partying too much, or if she's being too hard on herself. None of that. You, as a mom, just need to stay in the place of love. And so think of a thought that reminds you of that love. Maybe it was the first moment you held her. Maybe it was the day she told you she was going to college to be a doctor. Maybe it was when she was 7 and she gave you your Mother's Day present, and it was the best present you ever got. Bring the feeling of that. So affirm it. My daughter is a doctor. That's the end. So maybe the middle is my daughter is becoming a doctor. My daughter is going to school to be a doctor. My daughter is a successful doctor is where you could end up. And then feel about it? So what does it feel like to have a daughter that's a doctor? What does it feel like to have a daughter that's committed to helping support humanity in that way? Bring that feeling in. That's what she needs, though, is love. That's it. Any others?
Yeah.
Take one more.
One more, huh? Health is my struggle.
Health. Okay. So with health, whatever you focus upon, you bring about. And it doesn't mean you bring it about in the way that you focus it, but you bring more of it about. So let me just explain that a little bit. So some people say, don't think, like let's say you're thinking that you're going to lose all your money. And so I'm like, let's say you're on a trip and you're like, oh, I'm afraid somebody's going to rob me or something like that. If you really step into that vibration strongly, you could absolutely attract that to you. But that's not always the case. Oftentimes what the case is you're not bringing about the exact thing you're worrying about. What you're bringing about is the worry energy itself. If you don't have any money, it's not that you're bringing about the fact that it's going to be taken from you like being robbed, but it's that you're in the lack energy and that you bring more of that about, not necessarily being robbed per se. So in health, when you have a health issue, you have to see it and feel it and affirm it in the positive, in the way that you see it and want it to be. And you have to hold that vision outside of anything that goes against that, vision of health. So, for example, I've had a lot of different health issues that in the past that I've had the opportunity to get to heal through, work through, in changing my thought patterns, redirecting my attention, moving my focus from the negative to the positive, the fear to the love. And so with health particularly, like let's just say you have, I'll use me as an example. In February, I had weekend events. Every single weekend of February we had an event, and all of them were out of town. They weren't all out of state, but they were all out of town. And so we were on the last day of one of our last events before our final event. So we were in Las Vegas for an event, and we were going to Chicago the next weekend. And that night, while we were in Vegas, we went dancing. Well, I went dancing. And I went dancing with them, but I danced. And when I was dancing with this guy, partner, we were two-stepping, he dropped me while we were dancing. And when he dropped me right on my bum, like right on my tailbone. And so I got up and finished dancing, and I think I even went out one more time and danced. But after I sat down, I was like, oh boy, that hurts. And so I didn't know how bad it was, and probably till the next morning. And I woke up and I'm like, okay, I hurt myself here. And so my initial thought was, I didn't really know why I had hurt, because I always look at what the emotional piece is to it. And so I wasn't sure why I had hurt myself, because emotionally I was feeling good. I was feeling, I was working, which I always like to do, and I like to travel, and so I wasn't quite sure what it was. But over the next day or so, as I kind of tuned in to what it was, I had a book that I was supposed to write, and it was due March 1st. And I had this event, and then my event in Chicago was the next weekend, which was March 1st. And I had maybe a 20th of the book written. And so I was, for sure, after that clicked into my head, realized, oh my gosh, I feel really weighed down and out of balance here, because I've got so much travel involved that I don't have the time to write like I need to. And I didn't want to be late on my deadline. I didn't want to let anybody down. I didn't want to not have the time to do it right and do it the way I wanted to do it. And so all of these thoughts, as I tuned into my tailbone and what what the real reason I had that issue was, that's what came up is that I felt this responsibility and this heaviness and pressure, which is what I felt in my tailbone, pressure to get it done, and I didn't have the time or space to do it. And so a couple of days into that injury, and it was sore. It hurt pretty bad, and I have a pretty good pain tolerance. So, but I couldn't like pick something up because it would hurt my tailbone, which didn't even make any sense. I didn't even know it affected your tailbone. But anyway, so I went to go pick up my suitcase on Wednesday. We were leaving on Friday. I went to go pick up my suitcase on Wednesday, empty suitcase, and I couldn't pick it up. And it just occurred to me, oh my God, Sonny, there's no way you're going to be able to get on a plane for 4 hours, do all of the lifting of the suitcases in and out of the cars, all the traveling. There's no way you can do it. You just can't do it. Well, I sat with that because that's not like me. It's not like me to cancel something and that type of thing. And as I was thinking about how it's not like me, is when my spirit said, and that's exactly what you need to do, because you need to really take care of yourself. And I heard, if you take care of yourself, it will heal perfectly and very, very quickly. And I knew then that was the message. The message was that I need to take care of myself and take that time. And the reason that I actually had hurt my tailbone was because of the pressure that I was putting on myself to do it all. And so I had to cancel my trip to Chicago, which did not feel good to me. But the not feeling good and canceling the trip felt better than not taking care of myself. And so my point to that story is that your body is speaking to you. And so if you can find a way to redirect what it is that you keep thinking and change it and find a value or find something that it's speaking to you about that you could do differently, then your body will respond. If you have a lot of negative thoughts and you get sick a lot, or you have a lot of disease, and so then oftentimes when you have that, you're so negative about yourself. Why isn't my body doing this? Why can't I get better? Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. We've got to redirect that into my body's getting healthier and healthier and healthier every moment of every day. I'm feeling stronger and stronger and stronger. I have less infection or whatever it happens to be, but you have to move it. So for me, like with my tailbone, I visualized my tailbone getting healthy. I visualized it straight. I felt the emotion of the weight being lifted off of me, because then what happened is I never have time in my schedule. There's never a day that I don't have a bunch of things scheduled in a day unless I'm on vacation or I'm traveling. And when I'm traveling, I have a whole bunch scheduled in a day, but it's there. Well, this was an opportunity because I couldn't go. I had 5 solid days that there was nothing scheduled. And so I literally was able to write my book during those days. And so that was the benefit. And because I could see that, then the tailbone healed amazingly. Within 2 weeks, my tailbone pain was gone. Where I'd had people, everybody had told me, oh my God, this is like 6 weeks or a year long kind of thing. I'm like, nuh-uh, not me. I got my message. I learned it. I thanked the body for the gift that it had given me, and for me being able to redirect my energy. Because I'm not saying that first happened, that first few hours especially, I'm like, what the hell? What's this shit? Why? I had those thoughts, but immediately within that a very short time, I knew I needed to move that energy in a different way. I knew I needed to redirect myself because it's not healthy for me, and I'm not willing to do things that aren't healthy for me or that don't feel good to me. And so I had to change it, but you have to be aware of it in order to change it. So it's finding that way to be able to flip it, and then stay focused on how you flipped it instead of going back in. It's like, don't look backwards. You're not going there. Stay focused in this present moment. This is the moment that matters. And if you're present in this moment, then the future will follow that vibration. If you're thinking negative thoughts, then the future is going to follow that vibration. If you're thinking positive thoughts, the future will follow that vibration. But it's whatever vibration you're in now that you're creating from. Okay, let's take one more question, Chris. I got a whole bunch. I have a whole bunch of questions. I'll take a couple more then.
Okay, how about when you think you're making headway with money and then more surprise bills come up?
Okay. Great question. A very common one too. So a lot of times what happens is there's a root issue. And the root issue with a situation like that is usually not feeling deserving. Not feeling like you deserve to have the money, the extra money, for whatever it is that you're wanting it for. So I'll give you an example from my life. I think it was the refrigerator that went out. My husband, I was a stay-at-home mom, and I worked part-time little job once in a while for Christmas around the world during the season. But on the off season, I didn't work outside of the home, and so it was just my husband's income. So we had saved, I think I'd saved like $900, maybe it was $890 or something like that. And I'd saved that money. I didn't really have something specific I was saving it for. I was just saving it. And like maybe I had it for a week, and it felt really good to have that $890 in the bank, you know. And I had it maybe for a week, and then our refrigerator went out, and the refrigerator was like $888. Like I had $2 left over, something ridiculous like that. And I was like, why does that always happen? And that's exactly what I said. And so this was like probably 15 years ago. And so my thought was, why does that always happen? Why do I always do that? If I saved $200, then, you know, the battery in the car would go out, and I'd have, you know, maybe $100 left, or the pool pump, or just different things. And it seemed like that would always happen. And so one day it was clear. It was, you don't feel like you deserve it. So as soon as it comes in, it's got to go out. And I was like, oh, I don't want that. So when I started to feel lack, or started not feeling like I had enough of something, what I actually do is I give it away. So if I feel tight with money, then I give money away, or I buy something for someone, or I go donate money or product or items or something to an organization, or go out on the street and give people things, money, whatever, to move that energy, to affirm the abundance that is who I am, because there's plenty for all of us. And money isn't something that I worry about. Like, I just don't even worry about it, period. I am conscious of it, and I have an awareness around it, but it's not something that I have fear or worry about, because I believe I know that there'll always be plenty for what it is that I need. And I really do trust that. So it's not an issue in my own life, but it certainly has been in the past. The other thing that I learned around that same time was part of the reason that I would save money is I would just save it in case of an emergency. You know, if something happened, or if we, you know, had an accident, or I don't know, just in case of emergency. And then one day the thought came to me, well, if you're saving for an emergency, you're probably going to have an emergency. Well, there went the car money, and there went the refrigerator money, and there went the, you know, battery money, whatever. So instead, I taught a lot of people and suggest to people that it might be a better idea to save money for a vacation, to save money for a college education, to save money for something that's an intentional, positive thing, to save money for your 401k, for your retirement even. But don't save money in case of an emergency. Because in the energy of saving it for an emergency, you attract that energy of emergency to you, and it seemingly just, it comes in, it goes out, it comes in, it goes out, it comes in, it goes out. And we want money to come in and go out. That's the flow of energy. When you hold on too tight to money, then you're hanging on out of fear, and we don't want to put that energy out. Another one?
Okay, I'm distracted. I'm a distracted doer. I'm busy doing what I do, but always thinking about what else I could be doing.
Okay, and that sounds like a rhyme too, or what's that called?
Yeah, that.
Yeah, I can't even think of what it's called. But anyway, okay. So for a distracted doer, what you want to do is be more. So you're a human being, not a human doing. And so what I would say for someone who's, you're always active, so this is my impression. You're always active, busy, going, doing, to just check things off your list, to add more things to your list, to check things off your list. It's probably that you get value in doing. That's probably where you feel the best. And oftentimes for those of us, I've been a doer myself, oftentimes for those of us that are doers, it's because it wasn't really an option to not do when we were younger. And so you may have felt like you had to do, or your parents may have taught you that, or forced you to do it, like you always had to be active and doing and things like that. An example from my life is, my dad was, you just weren't allowed to just lay around and just listen to the radio or something. You had to be doing something. Now, I could be playing, and that was okay when I was younger. You could play, I could be playing a board game or something like that, as long as I was doing. But if you're just laying around or just watching TV or just sitting in your room listening to music, I had to be reading, or I had to be doing something. To the point that I would keep a Windex bottle and paper towels underneath my bed. And then if I ever heard my dad coming down the stairs, this was like from the time of I was like age 9 or so to about age 12 or 13. If I ever heard him coming down the stairs, then I'd just jump up and I'd grab my Windex and clean my mirror so that I was doing something. And that became a real issue for me, that I never felt like I could just be. And so the way to redirect that is to start to be present, first of all. Because in the activity of doing, there's nothing wrong with doing, by the way. It's just if we're becoming obsessive about it, which just sounds like is your challenge. But in the activity of doing, if you're not present with what you're doing, then you're missing out, and you're not present then in whatever it is you do next. So there's no presence of mind. And so if you can try to be, like if you're cleaning the house, one of the steps that I took, because I was a doer, very much so. And I was a doer so much that I would clean my house, like I would dust my house every other day, and then I'd vacuum my house on the opposite day, and it was very, very clean, because that was how I felt good enough and felt worthy, was my house had to be spotless. And so I was always doing that. And so one of the things that I did to start to move out of that was, number one, I redirected my attention and my energy to finding other things to fill that space. Like I would force myself to sit down for 15 minutes and just sit. And then I would do meditation for 10 minutes and just sit. Then sometimes I would literally sit on my hands, because otherwise my hands had to be doing something if my body wasn't doing something. It was crazy. Well, I read an article somewhere around this time that said for a woman that was cleaning her house, because I wasn't present either. I was all over the board when I was cleaning. I was thinking about what my son needed to do, what I needed to make for dinner, or whatever. And I was really trying to practice presence, but my head would just take over. And so this article said that this woman that cleaned her house, she looked at it as a thank you and a gift for everything that she had. And so it was almost like it was her prayer. And so as she would, wipe the walls down, she would give gratitude and thanks for the walls supporting the roof that she slept under. And as she wiped dusted her little knickknacks, she would give gratitude for the person that gave it to her and the relationship that they had, or the place that it came from, or the memories. And so I started doing that, and so I was very present as I was doing it. My gosh, that changed my whole outlook. So then it was like when I was cleaning my house and cleaning the items or organizing or whatever, it was like it was my prayer, my gift back, my gratitude, my appreciation for everything that I had. And it felt so different, and it felt so good. And then in that process, I was able to not have to use it so much in the doingness. It was more in the being, and then I was able to do it less often because I felt so full when I did it, and I was so present with it that I was full. It was a really, really interesting experience for me, and to a place that it really got me. I really was able to heal myself from the obsessive, compulsive need to have everything be perfect in my house and have it all be be clean and organized and everything like that. And it was like, it's okay if the can's turned the other way, Sonny. It's okay if the garbage isn't dumped as soon as there's 2 things in it. It's okay if somebody walks on your vacuum lines and messes it up. That's life. We want to be living in this house. And so that may be helpful for you, to be a being instead of a doing. One more? Go ahead.
Okay.
Last one. This is my last one.
How do I change feelings of being taken advantage of?
Changing feelings of being taken advantage of. Well, I'm probably not going to like my answer. But what I would say is that, and I'm going to say this from 2 perspectives. So the first perspective is on a soul level. On a soul level, we agree and sign up for things that we probably wouldn't choose in this physical realm, and they not that we agree to, abuse or things like that. I'm not saying we agree to the specifics of how it manifests, but we agree to the lessons that come from it, what we learn from it. Maybe forgiveness, maybe tolerance, maybe compassion, maybe acceptance, things like that. So that's one thing. So from a soul level, I would say it's not possible to be taken advantage of because we are a participant in everything from a soul perspective. But on a human level, it's very difficult to accept that and or acknowledge that. So that's my first answer. My second answer is nobody can make you feel any way without your permission. No one can make you feel a certain way without your permission. You ultimately are in charge of your feelings. I cannot force somebody to feel happy. Just like I cannot force somebody to feel angry. Just like I cannot force somebody to feel sad. Just like I cannot force someone to feel compassionate. So we are responsible for our own feelings. It doesn't always feel that way because we hear news or we watch something and it literally kind of moves through our body, but a lot of that is because we've been trained to react in certain ways instead of respond. So nobody can make you feel a certain way or can hurt you or can betray you or, what was the word she used? Take advantage of you without your permission. Now, I understand you're going to say, no, you know what, they used my trust and they took advantage of me, or nope, they said they were going to do this and they didn't and they took advantage of me, or they told me they'd pay me $300, they took advantage of my kindness. I really, and I know this is hard to hear, but I really do believe that we are participants in every single action. And if we get into an area where we're going to start blaming people for the choices that we made, so let's just say that it's about, like, I loaned money to somebody and they told me they'd pay me back and they didn't pay me back. Okay, let's just say it was that. And so I feel taken advantage of because they have my $500 and they've never paid me back. Well, I made a choice to give them that money or not give them that money. That's my part in it. Well, they told me they were going to give it to me. Yes, but you still had control over choosing to do it or not do it. And so, did they actually take advantage of you? Well, maybe that might be true. But if you choose to blame them, then your healing is in their hands. If you choose to take responsibility and say, you know what, yeah, I gave them the money and my intuition told me not to. You know what, I did give them the money and I had a feeling about it. You know what, I gave them the money and I just hoped that they would. You know, I gave them the money and even though I've had other people that haven't paid me back, I just thought maybe they would. You have your own opportunities for lessons and experiences and growth and expansion in that. And it came to you for a reason. This is the way that I choose to look at it. And so if I'm going to blame someone, my healing is in their hands. If I'm going to take responsibility for my action, I gave them the money. That's my responsibility. Then I can learn from it, grow from it, and move forward. And not say, oh, well, they took advantage of me. People, again, can only take advantage of you, hurt you, with your permission. I'm not saying that feels good. I'm not saying that you really like it. But I think if you went that way, then wouldn't it cause you to then maybe do things a little bit differently? So would you instead start to go, well, I'm going to be more mindful of who I'm giving money to, and or if I'm going to give money, I'm just going to give it as a gift. And so, that's one of the things I learned is if I give money to anybody ever, if people ask me to borrow money or whatever, I never give money with it being a loan, ever. Even if they say it's a loan, my energy is not around it being a loan. My energy is it was a gift. That way I can't be disappointed. I can't have somebody take advantage of me. It's not possible. Because I love myself enough to take ownership of the fact that I chose to do that. And then I have the power to heal it. Versus if I say, oh, they took advantage of me, they hurt me, and I put that energy onto them, then they're in charge of my healing. They're holding my power. And I'm not having my power in their hands. Why would I do that? To sabotage myself, to set myself up, to be disappointed, to be right maybe. That's what we want to redirect. We don't want to be right. We want to be happy. Which leads me to, so we've got our list. So you're going to create your list of the things that aren't working in your life or your negatives, all those negative thoughts. And you're going to create your positive list of the redirects, the flips, the opposites of those. And you're going to burn your negatives list because we want to transmute that energy. Call on Archangel Uriel and ask Uriel to help you to transmute the energy so that you can see the gifts and the blessings and the possibilities and the positive energy from the challenges. Then create a joy list. Create a list of things that are going to bring you joy, ways that you can redirect your energy in positive ways that make you feel good. So what are the things that bring you joy? Several years ago, I had my son, I asked him what things bring him joy, what things he enjoys doing, and I had him write them on a note card. He had like 10 things on a note card, and I had him stick it right above his light switch because I knew that every day there was one thing I was sure that he would do, is he'd turn his light on and off. And turn it on in the morning, turn it off at night, whatever. And so that was the one thing, that was a place that I knew that it could grab his attention. And so there were the things of joy. And I told him, before you go to bed at night, make sure you've done one of these things. And if you haven't, then even if it's just 5 minutes, even if it's just imagining yourself at the beach for just a couple of minutes, then that feels like it's bringing you joy. So in your joy list, write 10 or 20 or 30 things. What I would love for you all to do right now, that are live right now, is in the comments, write 5 or 6 or 8 things that bring you joy, and everybody do it. Everybody that's on, do it. And then as you're done with your list, start looking at everybody else's list, because what happens is I think we really struggle to be a society that has joy. We tend to be joyless, and people struggle to allow themselves to feel joy and allow themselves to take the time for joy. So we'll steal each other's joys. So we'll go, oh, okay, well, I could do that too. That could be joyful to me. Oh, I could do that too. That could be joyful for me. And start to use some of the other people's joys that maybe you didn't think about. And then create a list of like 30 or 40 things that will bring you joy. And make sure that you do one of those every day. That redirects the energy. It starts lifting your vibration. It starts shifting your energy to some positive things. What brings you joy? Going and sitting outside in the sun for 5 minutes. Going for a walk. Playing with your puppies. Rolling around with your grandbabies. Eating a great croissant. I mean, I don't know what it is that brings you joy, but find those things. Create a list of those. And with healthy boundaries, meaning that we don't go crazy on the things that bring us joy. Like if a blizzard brings you joy, eating one of those every day probably isn't going to feel good. Or every hour isn't going to feel good. So if you can start to balance some of the energy that might have a tendency to be a little bit more negative, and start to redirect it into the positives and bring more joy into your life, will start to move you in a place where it's just going to be a natural evolution of vibration. Your vibration is going to automatically raise, and then it's going to be more and more uncomfortable to be in the negative stinking thinking, and you'll be more aware of it when it happens. So that again, you've got to be hyper aware in the beginning, but after you do that for a time, and it's a different amount of time for everybody, but after you do that for a time, it really starts to change to where I have to be hyper aware now of negative thoughts, meaning not negatives I think positive so much that it's not natural for me to think negatively. So I have to be aware, like, okay, Sunny, is it like not everything is rose-colored glasses, and I have to be like, okay, maybe there's something not right with this. Usually the way I know it is I feel it first, and then the thought comes to me because I go off of my intuition. So then make your joy list and then commit yourself to doing something that's joyful. What I'd love for you to do outside of writing it in this group is I'd also like you to tell me your top 5 joys. And if you will go on to my Facebook fan page, my Sunny Dawn Johnston fan page in Facebook, and write your top 5 joys on my page, I'm going to pick somebody. I'll pick whichever one I'm guided to. I'll pick someone and I'll send you a gift in the mail. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's something that will bring you joy. So you go on and you write 5 joys and oh, wait, let me add more. I'm going to add more to that. I want you to write 5 joys and commit. Tell me a commitment that you're willing to do with those joys, at least for this next week. So are you willing to do 1 joy a day? Are you willing to do 2 joys a day? Are you willing to do them for 20 minutes? Whatever your commitment is. I'm not questioning your commitment. I'm just asking you to make a commitment. So you guys post that on my fan page, and I will send you a gift in the mail. So I will private message you, whoever I choose. I will private message you what your address is, and I'll send you a gift in the mail for being joyful, because joy vibrates. It's the highest vibration, highest expression of love. So it ripples out and it changes the vibration of the planet. So you're doing your part in helping the planet's vibration raise by being joyful, and I appreciate that. That helps all of us redirect our energy in positive, loving ways. So I want to end by sharing with you something that brought me joy last week. I have a client of mine. Her name is Dijon. Dijon, I don't know if you're on live or not, but maybe you are. And last week or the week before, she sent me a T-shirt. And I'm not wearing the T-shirt, but it's a T-shirt that says "Manifesting Unicorns." Isn't that a great thing to manifest? I love unicorns. I've seen unicorns all over the place lately. I think people are coming over to the unicorn airy fairy side. I love it. But anyway, she sent me that great T-shirt that I love, and they're available on her Etsy site, which is called Dajon, D-A-J-O-N, Smiles. In case you guys like unicorns too, you can check out her T-shirts there. But with her T-shirt that she sent me a deck of cards, and these are I don't know if we can see them, Chris, so I'll have to hold them up. These are I am awesome affirmation cards. Can you see them yet? Hang on just 1 second.
There's just a delay.
I know. I'm just waiting for you to tell me if you can see them. Okay. So these are I am affirmation cards, and they're awesome affirmation cards. And there's a variety of different ones. These are really, really simple, great affirmations for anybody from 2 to 200. So I'm going to share these with you. I'm going to read them to you. What I'd like you to do is I would like you to just close your eyes. I would like your hand on your heart, and I want you to just breathe these in. These are all, I'm just going to show you them real quick before I start reading them to you. They're all different colors. They're bright, fun colors, and they're simple. She's got a son that's 4, and I'm certain that she's using these with him, and he was probably the inspiration and the help behind many of these. But they're just great, great cards and very simple. So a lot of people are looking for tools for their kids, and this is something that can be a tool for you as well as a tool for your kid. And like I said, one of the reasons that I created the CDs that I have, which I'm going to give you a special at the end, is to help retrain your brain. It's redirecting your thoughts. You need to move them to positive. So anytime that you have quiet space, it's probably not safe. Quiet space is probably not safe in your head yet. You need to have it filled with positive things, not the news in the background, not positive. Positive things. So when you're driving to work, listen to positive CDs. When you're sitting at your computer, if you can, listen to positive messages. Positive affirmations are so powerful. So I'm going to read some to you. So let's close our eyes, take a couple deep breaths. I'll take a drink. Everything happens for a purpose and in perfect timing. Let's take a deep breath and breathe that in. I am kind. Breathe that in. I believe in myself every day. I am safe to shine my light bright. I am a good friend. I am healthy and treat my body like my friend. I learn and grow from my challenges. I am loved and cared for. I am smart. I am thankful for all that I have and all that I am. Breathe that in. I breathe in love and I breathe out anger and fear. I find beauty in everyone. I am protected. I am creative and talented. We'll end with, I speak my truth. I speak my truth. Taking a deep breath and just let that energy move through you for a minute. When you feel ready, then you can open your eyes. And that's about half the deck, maybe 3/4 of the deck. I think these cards are on her Etsy site too. If you like those or you like them for your kids, I think they're great, simple, positive affirmations to redirect your thoughts. A lot of times we get a little too detailed. We'd like focus on too much. Simple, back to basics. That's what I'm talking about. Back to basics. Just change the way you're looking at things by moving into the way that you want to see things. And even if it doesn't feel real, it may not feel real. I felt like I was talking bullshit when I was trying to change my negatives to positives. But eventually, the positives that were so uncomfortable and felt like bullshit became my truth. Became who I was. I stepped into it. And then the negatives were the bullshit. And that's the truth. So I'm going to end with a little gift that a discount for the affirmation CDs. I try to think of something that might support you on your journey. And literally my angels actually guided me to grab this deck of cards so that these may be of help to you. But I also have my positive affirmation CD and my prosperity affirmation CD that may be of great help and support to you in redirecting your thoughts, especially when you're working out, when you're in the car, when you have that quiet space that really needs to be filled with something positive right now. So if you're interested in that, certainly you can get them on Amazon if you want to download them. But if you'd like a CD, a hard copy, I have them available in my boutique. And if you are interested in purchasing them, you can get them for the discounted price of $9. They're usually $16. And you just use the code word thoughts, 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 and that will give them to you for the $9 price. So if that's something that you're interested in, then I'm happy to share those with you as something that you can use. So again, it's time to flip it, right? Flip it. And I would love to hear your 5 things that bring you joy. Please share them. We'll share them on my fan page. You can share them on my personal page too. I don't really care which one you share them on. But please share them with me, and I'll check them all out, and I'll pick which one is the one that stands out to me, and I'll send you a gift in the mail. And we have a little thing we're going to be doing in the next few days, a little giveaway contest kind of a thing. So on Facebook only. So pay attention on there and keep an eye out. It's going to be a fun little thing, and we're looking for some input. So thank you all so very much. I hope you have a wonderful night. Thank you for hanging with us, because I know some of you were on there for like 20 minutes. So thank you so much for your support and hanging out and waiting for us as we figured out our challenge, and we redirected our thoughts. We're totally cool. It's all right. Fine and good. Right, Chris?
Yep.
Yep. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.